Now, the idea of zoning the principal offices of the National Assembly has proved unpopular within the ranks of the majority of party in Parliament. The All Progressive Congress, a lot of stakeholders within the party have spoken up, detailing reasons why everyone who cares to run should be afforded equal levels of opportunity, all in a quest to ensure the emergence of a set of leaders that can not only protect the party's overall interest, but also enhance the chances of success in lawmaking for the entire nation. Sadiq Abubakar is an APC chieftain and national coordinator, National Progressive Network. He joins us now to discuss the imperativeness of creating that level playing field, as well as highlight the dangers of party interference in the choice of legislative leaders. Good to have you with us, Sadiq. Let me ask you, can you assess the current aspiration towards the National Assembly leadership? Currently, do you think there's a level playing field scenario?
Yeah, very good afternoon. Good to have me this afternoon. On the question just asked about is sensitivity of the National Assembly in-house election cannot be overemphasized, most especially dwelling into the 10th Assembly, learning from the previous Assembly, and what the case of whatever there is an intrusion or interest from the party and a spelled out candidate is announced. It has always been a problem, starting from the 6th Assembly. If you could remember the case of what transpired between candidate highlighted by the party to be anointed candidates. Most especially, the ones that were more pronounced was that of 2015, which is the 8th Assembly, where there was an attempt to see the anointed candidates didn't end up becoming. Then it harbor a romance between parties unwilling situations. But what is more important of notes to all of this issue is that pronouncing a candidate and calling him an anointed candidate serves a little bit a deterrent to the real situation of the legislations in the House. Basically, we had gone on consultations, have come to reveal and endorse a particular candidate, which we think among the 5 aspiring candidates, aside the anointed candidate who happens to be Abbas Tajuddin, who we are not totally convinced based on the laid down antecedents of what he has done. We are advocating for leadership of Betara Mukhtar Aliyu, who happens to be a very proven personality, most competent, most affluent, and most outreach with both the primary area of where he comes to represent and what he has done in the security and the appropriation. Basically, we are of concern that if you don't allow a level playing ground for the National Assembly to decide who their leader becomes, at the end of the day, you have a rancor or not even being in charge. We could check the numbers of the representations on the so far elections that have been conducted. We have a 176 APC representative out of the 360. We have 118 PDP and 66 of combined other parties, which include the NNPP and Labour Party and other party. 2 pending. All of this, if we have gotten the right leader in person of President, His Excellency President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, who had already begun in a very good standing. And if you have a very competent House, free from the avoidance of interference from party or persons, it will make a very, very, very understanding and very polite House where we'll have our legislations that will be very direct, having direct bearing, and very responsible to the citizens of Nigeria.
I certainly hear you, Sadiq. But when you look at one of the issues that was highlighted, or one of the features that was highlighted, is the fact that the presidency and the vice presidency, they're both Muslims. You had a Muslim ticket situation. And even though you're pushing for a level playing field, it looks as though we're going to see, it will be necessary to see some intervention from the executive in order to ensure balance to a large extent. So how do you strike that balance in order to avoid a situation of, rancor like you've hinted?
Whatever that we are talking about is whenever the religions are called on a very sincere note, even though we're a secular state, I preserve my recommendations as to what is supposed and when we're talking of competence and taking us to where Nigeria works for all, regions are definitely a mere excuses. Of all the aspirants, I can tell you categorically that most of them are of the same faith, if not for one or two. And already they have been all in one pocket apart from the anointed candidate. There's more reasons why we harmonize what we have that has been highlighted. And why we are of this interest and why we spelt out why we are with the Honorable Mukhtar Ali Betra, it gives a room for us female deputy speakership in Mariam Onoha, who is also a member, as against all other people that have picked and take their tent. When you think of this, because President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Ahmed Bola Tinubu, have specified in lots of fronts that they are going to be gender sensitivity in all that we're doing. And a week ago, 200 women came to live protest that they have never been agitation openly of a female principalship in the National Assembly. And that is of concern. And in checking the competence of people that you present for what we are heading to, among the aspirants, there are about 5 pronounced ones. But why we choose to endorse what we've endorsed is because of his proven capacity and what he has done to earn him a name among, fondly called among his mates, who is called head boy. And being from the sensitivity of the last place he held, I think as a Nigerian and Nigeria that we're thinking, appropriation is one of the most sensitive department or principalship that he has chaired and chaired very well. And if you check out the constituency correspondence in the whole federation, it has been a very landmile victory that we've achieved that with the person we're endorsing. We're not just coming on a specific interest. I'm from Abuja, the North Central, but you see, with this interest, what interests us is that what will feature a good working Nigeria, and that also would have actually made me have reservations on having to endorse someone from the Northeast. No, the essence is how do we have a functional National Assembly? And that is what we see with someone who, it is easier to work with people that you are really, really ready to work with. And there's nothing that hurts the ego of the members or the National Assembly in the in-house elections like when you present a candidate that is freely not their choice. It has happened in the case of Molika Dakande and Aminu Waziri Tambuwal. It has also happened in the case of Patricia Ete and Bankole. So it has also happened sometime when there is a romance between the party fallout and picking up from the tent, because the party must be conscious of whatever decisions they're taking also, they are of interest of other people that are in the house that are not of the same party. For us to have a very smooth transitions, even oppositions have come out to say, with Honorable Mukhtar Ali Betara, they are okay. They are not going to go against it. But aside that, they are not okay with not even the people among the contestants have come in openly to still say that once there is not what they want as the leadership of the house, it's going to cause you having a house that you will not going to be satisfied with. On a congratulatory message and also a message of very importance to the newest chief of staff, who happens to be the former Speaker of the House of National Assembly. It is important also to know that it is good to be fair, because in the history of Nigerian transition to the National Assembly, it has never been from another assembly speaker supporting another candidate. So allowing them on a level playing ground will give us a directions to function in a way that we can always be proud to have a National Assembly that work for the Nigerian people, and National Assembly that legislate and also have responsive to their primary place of where they represent generally.
Very good, Sadiq. Now, the 10th Assembly is currently going to witness quite a number of new entrants, as it were, into its fold. And we're seeing some of them also vying for some of these positions. But don't you think that's going against House rules on such scenarios? And what has been the reaction so far from other members who have been there for quite a while?
That's where we're saying, and that is where the interest of the Honorable Betara becomes eminent, because he's the fifth timer, aside some persons that have been pushed to it. And to be honest, with the first timer, there's nothing wrong in trying. At least you will have it in history, and it will be recorded that you have made attempt to represent at various levels. And at the end of the day, we knew that in any of this move, it will not put you on a floor member, an ordinary floor member. It will rather give you an impetus or a direction to head or to be in a committee that you can be useful to the constituents and contribute your quota. For the fact that you're a newcomer doesn't mean you wouldn't have something extraordinary to present. But on the leadership of the House, the principality and the pecking order of it is one aspect that the outgoing Ninth Assembly will be cautious of, knowing very well that the responsibility, it's the first time we're having as sweet as it is, the leadership quality from the president being a former senator, the vice president being a former senator, the newly chief of staff, who is a former speaker, and the also secretary to the government of federation, a former senator. If all of this have been achieved, let's have an independent National Assembly where we can all believe that the leadership of the General 10th Assembly had been given that upper hand so as to achieve all the good intentions and the mandates that we have so canvassed to make sure that our principal, His Excellency, becomes the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, in order to have smooth transitions, that the renewed hope that was so clamored for can be achieved only through this platform of allowing everybody in. But there is nothing wrong, as I said, with the first-timer showing themselves at different principal offices, but on the nationalship leader, and here we are taking our grant to campaign as against, or also allowing the party to have a rethink. Where you place an unpopular candidate, it gives the House an opportunity to have a divided House that might not go in favor of the presidential, legislative, anything that has been passed to them. But when you have a coordinated National Assembly, allow them to have that freedom and feel like it's an in-house election, then we saw the leadership, and in lots of them, there are lots, but for the interests that we've already identified with, and we're here to tell the members concerned, because it is after a while consultations that this have come up devoid of any sentiments, whether religion, whether region, but has to do with the passionate, compassionate of the whole of the members of 360, excluding two that are pending so far. By the time it allows its freedom, I am sure we're going to have a more understanding and rewarding 10th Assembly, so that it gets its score 10 over 10 as it is intended to have.
Noted, Sadiq. But we understand that, ex-senators, specifically from the Second and Fourth Republics, they are asking that the aspirants respect the zoning formula that has been issued by the party. So if we're going to go by, these ex-senators coming from as far back as the Second and the Fourth, and then we compare it to what you're saying by making everything level playing field, one might say that they have more experience and should go for what they're saying as opposed to what your suggestions are. That's not to discredit you in any way, shape, or form, but I'd like to know your take on that.
Yeah, you see, whenever you call the level of the senators in this, you should also get reconscientized, and sometimes you need a son to tell a father when he's actually not getting it right with things. When you said the zonation formula, in all party zonation so far, we can see that in the four principal officers in the Senate President, Deputy Senate President, Speakership, and the Deputy Speakership, two have been zoned to Northwest. What of other zones? What happened to them? So once donations are called upon on such a ground, we always said that allow the National Assembly, like I said, if the yesterday problems or situations of yesterday cannot give you an impetus today to think of how to have a better tomorrow, then there's no essence of history. Histories have always repeated themselves that whenever they allow such imposition, the end result doesn't justify. And today, you know that they're going to go to Uyo, and after Uyo, this whole thing that we're trying to clamor and see where party readjusts. The leadership of some of the aspirants have met the party working committee already to have told them that we are not okay with these donations because it's about abusing the principalship of the National Assembly, which is also what you just noted about the first timer. So you see, when all of this are put on table, you will understand the justification and the rationale that we are giving a direction. We're not saying that they are not correct, but they could readjust in order to have a more rewarding ending than just when we have a National Assembly where we intended to have in the 8th Assembly. At the end of the day, we had a romance between two parties in just making the leadership. And at the end of the day, you saw what happened. It became a problem where you don't get what you want. The president will push a legislation that will serve the nation, but at the end of the day, they will keep it and it become politicized. All of these are what we are trying to avoid, thereby fostering and putting somebody in the front that is still of the party interest and see how the party can still rally around against him, around him. Because you see, some 6 days ago, the party working committee has also come, National Working Committee has also come to say, no, for the fact that you are anointed candidate or you are zoned or you are assumed to be zoned, consultations are made. Stop parading yourself as the Speaker of the 10th Assembly because the elections have not been done. And there are lots of intrigues that happens at the late hours or the 9th hour of the elections day on the day of the elections. All of these are the reasons why we said, allow the head boy, as is fondly called by his colleagues, take the lead and see how we rally around him as party faithfuls and see what comes out of it, generally.
All right, I hope I don't put you in a difficult spot, but if I were going to ask you, the current set of aspirants for the leadership positions, if you were going to assess their capabilities and, of course, their chances, can you give us a slight assessment on that scenario?
You said an assessment. To be fair to an assessment, as you said, we have a deputy speaker who is also running in the president of OASI. We have Gagdi, who is also a prince. So we have Ado Dogwa and Mariam Onoha, who is also from Imo. All of these aspirants are, like even the leader of the house, all of them are as qualified as they are. But what we are saying is that who is sellable and who is ready to unite and becomes a unifier in the House to have a legislation where it will be free from fighting internally rather than taking Nigerian legislations and giving a rewarding system that will be beneficial to the whole of Nigeria. Like I said, the slogan was well calculated and forward for a renewed hope. What we're wanting is different from what we've had over the years, whether it has been satisfactorily or otherwise, it's something of the populace can tell in addition to what has already been But for now, what we have to say and what we are here for is for building on the fact of result of our consultations. So going contrary to what we've consulted and understand from the members already ready for the elections, we know that this is our best chance and that is what we can do for best, and that is going for with Honorable Mukhtar Aliyu Betra for the candidature and also for the speakership.
Well, Sadiq, if things stay the same in terms of the zoning formula remaining and then it's not necessarily a level playing field, I'm just wondering what your next course of action might be.
You keep saying the zoning formula. I don't know if the zoning formula was actually forgotten in the last election when we have the same vice president from Southwest and we had the speaker from Southwest. It has been. It's not the first time. So that shouldn't be a case. Once once we're going to achieve that result-oriented playing ground, I think zonation, like I said, would have been saying North Central should be compensated, but that's not what the party picked. So if that is against the party, as against already in the 4 principal officers, you have Barrow, who is supposed to be the deputy Senate president from the Northwest, and you have a speaker. That doesn't actually go with any person that is actually trying to put everything on table. But what I'm trying to say is, it's the 10th assembly. It's an assembly under a true Democrat to the core, a Democrat of a proven personality. It must be an assembly that allows a level playing ground. Because at the day of elections, what we play around, we had only come to analyze and say what we think. But what is going to happen will happen. I remember when Amir Waziri Tambol smuggled into house, but yet he won because the calculations are always in favor of him. We are avoiding similar scenario. Whenever you call zonation, zonation is out of the in-house elections. And the in-house election, I just gave you the number. When you have 176, you have 118 and 66. If the 66 tend to merge with the 116, you're going to have a powerless assembly where the opposition might take to have the assembly. And you know what it is when the opposition have an assembly.
Very good, Sadiq. I was just about to ask you about the opposition as well. In this current political permutations and, of course, meanderings for the leadership positions, do you think the opposition is actually being carried along in this regard?
Yeah, part of the reasons I've submitted even when we started, I said the reason that informed our decision to endorse and back a candidate among the 5, all of them are good candidates, but why inform our decision is if you have a candidate from your own party that is being advertised by other party, isn't that an easy way for you to smack it and get it? Because I could remember Abdulmumin Jibril coming out to say the only candidature that they will not have problem with from APC is that of Honorable Mukhtar Aliyu Betrara. So if we have such kind of confession from other parties, and all his co-colleagues that are also returning have said the same thing. So if all of these are the reasons why we are saying what we are saying, it makes more sense as party persons and party faithful that have been here to maintain a level playing ground and allow it to happen like we don't have interest. Whoever, in the personality of His Excellency President Asiwaju, we know that whoever comes will have to work hand in hand to make sure that we have the campaign promises fulfilled.
Well said. APC chieftain and national coordinator, National Progressive Network, Sadiq Abubakar, thank you for your time. We certainly wish you well. Thank you for joining us here on Newsday.